the quiet choreography of events falling into place. And when you stop trying to force outcomes, you notice how life flows with a rhythm you could never have planned. Opportunities arrive, doors open, knots untangle, not because you controlled them, but because you finally allowed them. Soon the paradoxes arrive. You discover that you are both insignificant, a fleeting speck in the vast cosmos, and at the very same time, you are the cosmos itself, experiencing its own existence through your eyes. You see that letting go gives you more freedom than clinging ever could. You realize that in losing yourself, you find yourself. To the unawakened mind, these contradictions seem like confusion. But to the awakened, paradox is music, tension, and release, opposites playing together to create beauty. Dreams begin to shift as well. They stop being random shadows of the mind and start to feel alive, like messages disguised in symbols. The line between waking and dreaming thins, weaving a pattern that invites your attention. And while the world might call this madness, what is happening is expansion. You are touching life more deeply than before, perceiving its hidden dimensions. Most of all, the boundaries dissolve. You feel that your breath is borrowed from the trees, that your food is borrowed from the earth, that even your thoughts are shaped by voices older than your own. In this realization, humility arises. You are not separate. You are a wave of the same ocean. And yet, instead of erasing your individuality, this awareness makes it shine. You are not here to pretend to be someone else. You are here to play your note fully in the symphony of existence. This is the essence of awakening. It is not about acquiring powers or escaping the world. It is about seeing more clearly, feeling more deeply, living more truthfully. It is about realizing that life was never against you, that the river has always carried you, and that every coincidence, every paradox, every dream was a doorway waiting for you to notice. Spiritual awakening is not a lightning bolt from the sky. It rarely arrives as a single moment of clarity where everything suddenly makes sense. Instead, it creeps in quietly, like dawn seeping into the night. At first, you barely notice the shift. The world looks the same. The streets are unchanged, the faces around you are familiar, the routines remain. And yet, something inside you begins to stir. You sense a current running beneath the surface of your ordinary life, and you cannot ignore it anymore. One of the first things you notice is that life begins to feel more connected. Where once you saw only fragments, random events, accidental meetings, you now see a hidden order. That stranger you happened to sit next to on the bus, the book you randomly pulled from a shelf, the challenge you thought was an obstacle, all of it begins to appear as part of a larger tapestry. Life reveals itself as a conversation, not just noise. And when you start listening, you realize it has been speaking to you all along. This awareness does not make you special in the way society might tell you. It does not give you a badge of superiority or a license to look down on others. In fact, it does the opposite. Awakening humbles you. It shows you how small your separate self truly is, how much of what you called mine was borrowed, the air in your lungs, the language in your thoughts, the earth beneath your feet. And yet in that humility, you discover a deeper dignity. You are not an isolated accident. You are part of something vast, ancient, and alive. Awakening is full of paradoxes. It teaches you that strength is born from vulnerability, that letting go brings more control than grasping ever did, that in dying to your old illusions, you find life more abundantly. These contradictions are not errors. They are invitations. They are the music of existence, where harmony arises from the tension of opposites. Just as a wave is both crest and trough, so too are you both small and infinite, fleeting and eternal. Another shift that comes with awakening is the way you experience time. Before, life felt like a race, always leaning into tomorrow, always burdened by yesterday. You measured worth by achievement, counted hours like currency, and feared the passing of days as if life was slipping away. But when the veil begins to thin, you realize that the past is only memory, the future only imagination. The only place life actually happens is here, now. And when you rest in this present, you find it expands. A single breath becomes vast. The light on the leaves becomes luminous. The simple act of being becomes enough. This change does not mean that suffering disappears. On the contrary, awakening often brings you face to face with pain you once avoided, but instead of treating pain as enemy, like fire purifies metal, suffering reveals where you cling, where you resist, where fear still holds you. And when you stop fighting it, you discover that pain itself can open space inside you, carving room for joy, for compassion, for understanding. Awakening is not the denial of difficulty. It is the transformation of it. People around you may not understand. Some will be drawn to the lightness you carry, sensing a quiet ease in your presence. Others may feel threatened because your peace highlights the turbulence they still struggle with. But part of awakening is realizing that you do not need approval. You no longer have to convince anyone, nor defend yourself against misunderstanding. You are free to live authentically, to play your unique note in the symphony of life, knowing that those who are ready will hear it. As this process deepens, the world itself begins to feel mythological. Your daily life no longer seems like a series of meaningless chores. Instead, it unfolds as a living story. Every encounter, every struggle, every blessing feels like part of a greater tale. The people you meet are teachers in disguise. The obstacles you face are trials meant to shape you. Even the moments of despair carry hidden seeds of wisdom. You realize that life has always been more than survival. It has always been an adventure in consciousness. And yet, awakening does not remove you from the world. It does not require that you retreat to a cave or abandon the everyday. The beauty of it is that it shows you the sacred within the ordinary. Washing dishes, walking down the street, sitting in silence, all become infused with significance. Life itself becomes the meditation, the practice, the revelation. This is what it means to awaken, to see clearly without fear, to live fully without grasping, to rest in the flow of existence instead of resisting it. It is not an escape, it is a return to what has always been true, what has always been here, waiting for your attention. And once you glimpse this, even for a moment, you cannot truly go back. The old shell no longer fits. The old seriousness begins to dissolve. You laugh at the weight you once carried, at the illusions you once defended, and in that laughter, you discover freedom. Awakening always begins with noticing. It does not demand belief, nor does it require that you adopt some new philosophy. It begins with simple awareness. Awareness of the way your mind has been running on autopilot, awareness of the patterns you had taken for granted, awareness that life itself has been whispering to you in ways you overlooked. To awaken is not to add something new to your mind. It is to notice what has always been there, waiting to be seen. At first, this noticing feels subtle. You may be walking through the same city streets you have walked 1,000 times, and suddenly you stop. The buildings are the same, the people are the same, the noise is the same. Yet something has shifted. The light on the pavement seems sharper, the breeze across your skin feels alive, and you are struck with a sense that the world is not just scenery, it is communicating. The trees sway, the cars pass, the fragments of conversation drift by, and you feel as though all of it belongs. You are no longer outside looking in. You are within the dance. This shift can feel disorienting at first. Your old mind, trained to analyze and control, resists. It demands explanations. Why do I feel this way? What does it mean? Is this just imagination? But the deeper truth cannot be captured by logic. Awakening is not about finding answers. It is about learning to live in the questions. It is about recognizing that reality is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Synchronicities often arrive at this stage. What once seemed like accidents begin to feel like alignments. A song plays at just the right moment. A stranger says exactly what you needed to hear. A challenge pushes you toward growth you had avoided. These are not magical tricks, performed for your benefit. They are reflections of your own expanded awareness. When you stop clinging so tightly to control, you begin to notice the harmony that was always present. Life did not suddenly change, you did. And in that shift, humility arises. You see how much of your life was built on the illusion of separation. You thought you were an isolated self, making decisions alone, carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. But when you look closer, you see how interwoven everything truly is. Your breath is not yours alone, it is the gift of the trees. Your food is not yours alone, it is the gift of soil, rain, and Sunday. Even your language, the very words you think with, is borrowed from generations long before you. The boundaries you once clung to dissolve, and what replaces them is not chaos but connection. Paradox becomes your teacher. The more you let go, the freer you feel. The more you admit your smallness, the more you discover your vastness. You realize that control has always been an illusion, and yet in surrender, you find a deeper order. To the old mind, this sounds like madness, but to the awakened heart, it feels like music. The tension of opposites, the dance of light and dark, the meeting of joy and sorrow, this is the rhythm of existence. Another sign of deepening awakening is the way your inner landscape begins to mirror your outer one. Dreams no longer feel like meaningless fragments. They speak in symbols, offering messages you cannot always decode, but which you feel matter deeply. A recurring image, a mysterious figure, a sudden burst of clarity, these experiences blur the line between sleeping and waking. And soon you realize that life itself is a dream woven with meaning, and that you are both dreamer and dreamed. This realization often brings fear. You may feel as though you are losing your mind. After all, society has conditioned you to treat coincidence as accident, paradox as error, dreams as fantasy. But awakening, what you called reality, was only a narrow slice of the whole. You are not going insane, you are expanding. You are not losing touch, you are finally living life more fully. With expansion comes a kind of responsibility. Not the heavy responsibility of duty or performance, but the responsibility of authenticity. You see that pretending no longer serves you. Masks fall away, and you are called to live more truthfully. This does not mean abandoning who you are. It means being who you are without apology. You are not here to play someone else's part. You are here to play your own note, fully, clearly, beautifully, in the great symphony of existence. And when you do, something astonishing happens. The world responds. You find that opportunities align. People resonate. Circumstances flow. Not because you forced them, but because you stepped into the current. It is like discovering that life is a river, and instead of thrashing against it, you allow yourself to be carried. You realize that the river has always been moving in your favor, and that the drowning was only ever the illusion of clinging. This is the beginning of awakening. It is not an escape from reality, but an intimacy with it. It is not about transcending life, but embracing it. And the more deeply you notice, the more deeply you live. As awakening deepens, you begin to see that life is not something happening to you, it is something happening through you. This recognition shifts everything. Once, you believed you were a separate observer, watching events unfold on the stage of. Now, you sense that you are both actor and stage, both wave and ocean. The distinction between inner and outer, between me and world, begins to blur. And in that blur, a new kind of clarity emerges. You notice it in small details. The laughter of a child sounds distant. It feels like it vibrates inside your chest. The wind brushing against your skin seems inseparable from the breath moving in your lungs. Even silence becomes alive, no longer empty, but brimming with presence. Every moment pulses with meaning, as though the entire universe is awake and aware, looking back at you through countless eyes. At first, this enslaved. Not in pain. Reveals that suffering has always been one of life's greatest teachers. It strips away illusions, exposes attachments, and shows you where fear still hides. In the fire of pain, what is false burns away, leaving behind something more spacious, more authentic. You realize that grief, loss, and struggle are not signs of failure. They are part of the alchemy that transforms you. Think of clay cracking in the sun, allowing the light to pass through. Think of a tree pruned, cut back so that it may grow stronger. This is how life shapes you. The moments you thought would break you become the very conditions that prepare you for deeper freedom. And once you see this initiation, time itself begins to dissolve under this new way of seeing. Once, the past weighed heavily on you and the future pulled you forward in anxiety. You lived in a constant tension between regret and anticipation. But awakening reveals that both past and future are mind-made constructs. The past exists only as memory, the future only as imagination. The only place life ever truly unfolds is here, in the living present. And when you rest in that presence, even for a moment, you discover its vastness. A single breath becomes luminous. A bird's song becomes eternity. The ordinary becomes extraordinary because it is seen clearly, without the veil of hurry. This freedom from time changes everything. You no longer measure your worth by how much you accomplish in a day, or by whether your plans unfold according to schedule. Life ceases to be a race and becomes instead a rhythm. You stop rushing towards some imagined finish line and begin to taste the richness of the step you are already on. And in this tasting, happiness is revealed not as a goal to chase, but as a quality of attention. It was here all along, waiting for you to notice. Of course, not everyone around you will understand. Some will be drawn to your calmness, sensing something magnetic in the ease you carry. Others may feel threatened, because your presence quietly reveals the restlessness in their own lives. But awakening is not about convincing others. It is about living fully yourself and letting that authenticity ripple outward. Some will understand, some will not. And that, too, belongs. Perhaps not the cruel laughter of mockery, but of recognition. You see how seriously you once took everything, how tightly you once held your plans and worries. And now you laugh, because you see it was never as heavy as it seemed. This laughter does not dismiss life, it frees it. It is the joy of realizing that existence is not a burden to carry, but a mystery to dance with. This is the essence of awakening, not escape, not denial, but presence. A presence so deep that even pain becomes sacred, so spacious that even paradox feels harmonious, so light that even seriousness turns into laughter. And once you taste this, even for a breath, you know you cannot return to the old way of being. The shell has cracked, the song has begun, and life will never again be just ordinary. Awakening does not simply change what you see, it changes how you see. The lens itself begins to shift. What once appeared as random and meaningless now unfolds as if part of a hidden design. And yet, the design is not rigid or predetermined. It is fluid, alive, constantly responding to your awareness. This is why so many awakened people speak of life as a conversation. Not with words, but with patterns. Not with commands, but with invitations. Imagine walking through your day as you always have, but suddenly realizing that every detail carries a kind of significance. The person you bump into on the street is not an accident. The song that plays at the cafe echoes your unspoken feelings. The delay at the train station opens space for you to meet someone you were meant to encounter. None of these things are forced. They simply arise, like ripples in a vast ocean, and you begin to recognize them as part of a larger choreography. To the unawakened mind, this sounds like superstition. Coincidence, they say, You're reading too much into it. But when you pay attention, the frequency of these moments grows. The more open you are, the more the universe seems to align itself. What is really happening is not that life suddenly changes for you, but that your perception becomes attuned to the subtle rhythm that has always been there. You were deaf to the music. Now you are learning to listen, and as you listen, paradoxes arise. You see that life is both orderly and chaotic, both predictable and surprising. You realize that control was never truly yours, and yet your choices still matter. This is the dance of awakening, living fully, while knowing that you are not the separate controller you once imagined. You are a participant in the great unfolding, both free and guided, both wave and ocean. Think of it as music. A single note on its own might seem meaningless, but when it joins with others, melody, harmony, rhythm, it becomes something greater. Existence works in the same way. Each event, each encounter, each challenge is like a note. On its own, it may appear random or even harsh, but within the larger composition, it plays its part perfectly. Awakening is the discovery that you are both the note and the song, both the player and the played. This shift often brings a strange mix of humility and empowerment. On one hand, you see how small you are, how little control you ever had. The storms of life still come, losses still happen, uncertainty still lingers. And yet, instead of feeling powerless, you feel aligned with something larger. You realize that your task is not to command the storm, but to learn how to sail with it. In surrender, you find strength. In humility, you find freedom. Dreams, too, begin to reveal their importance. Once dismissed as meaningless fragments, they now carry weight. You wake with symbols lingering in your mind, a door, a journey, a voice you cannot quite remember. These images refuse to fade. They press on you, asking to be acknowledged. And as you pay attention, you see how your dreams and waking life mirror each other, weaving a continuous thread. The boundary between night and day grows thin, until you realize that both are expressions of the same consciousness. This can be unsettling. The rational mind resists, trying to box everything back into categories, real and unreal, fact and fantasy. But awakening dissolves those boundaries. It shows you that what you called real was only one narrow slice of the whole. The dream, the paradox, the synchronicity, they are not mistakes. They are dimensions of reality you had ignored. Expansion feels like madness only because it does not fit the old rules. But in truth, it is sanity, the kind of sanity that comes from embracing the whole, instead of clinging to fragments. As this realization deepens, your relationship with control shifts. You no longer need to push so hard, to force every outcome, to grip the steering wheel of life with white knuckles. You discover the wisdom of letting go, and in letting go, you find that life moves with a surprising grace. Problems untangle themselves in ways you never could have planned. Opportunities appear not because you demanded them, but because you were open enough to receive. This is not passivity. It is participation without grasping, action without desperation. In these moments, life feels almost magical. Not the magic of tricks or illusions, but the magic of alignment. You sense that the universe is alive, aware, responsive. You are no longer a stranger in it. You are at home. The trees breathe with you. The rivers flow through you. The stars look back